This is TWiT.
As many of you know, Apple has an event on Monday, and as many of you also know, September is typically the time when Apple announces a new iPhone. Joining us to talk about whether that is or is not the case is Bloomberg's own Mark Gurman. Mark, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me. Yes, they will be announcing new iPhones this month.
Gasp.
Yes, shockingly, on Monday. So you'll see new iPhones, you'll see new AirPods, and you'll see new Apple Watches. So they're sticking to the usual formula. And I think the big things this time around will be more so the non-iPhone products. I don't think the iPhone update yet again is going to be anything of massive significance. I guess last year was pretty significant with the move to titanium. You can argue how big of a change that is, but I think it was a pretty big change. This year, the phones are going to look essentially the same. You're going to get that camera button to control the camera, hardware key for the first time. The Apple Watch and the AirPods will be getting the bigger enhancements.
Yeah, so let's then, I guess we should start with the iPhone since there's not a whole lot to talk about there. We've been hearing about this capture button for a while now, and I was curious to hear your take on the capture button in terms of, well, first and foremost, are all of the iPhones going to have action buttons this time around? And then is the capture button truly going to be another button than the action button, the side button, the volume up and down button? And what do you know about whether it's going to be a physical clicky button or a capacitive button or what all that involves? Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Yes, all the phones will have the action button. All the phones will have the camera button. And it's interesting because, you know, most people thought they were going in the other direction, moving as many buttons as possible. But here we are adding two buttons now to the regular models and adding one new button to the Pro models. Obviously, the action button came to the 15 Pro and Pro Max last year. It's a physical button, so you can physically click it, but it's capacitive in the sense that you can swipe on it and it's pressure sensitive, but it's a real button. There was speculation that Apple was moving away from physical click-in buttons around the phones, something called Project Bongo, but that was abandoned due to cost and engineering issues. So that's not in the picture anymore. So physical button with a capacitive sensor layer on top, and it works almost exactly like a DSLR button where you can push in a little bit to focus and keep pushing to shutter, and you can swipe on it in order to zoom in and out of a subject.
Okay, that's pretty cool, the zoom feature, because I was not fully aware of everything that button would be able to do. So outside of that, materials wise, remind us what we should expect for these iPhones. Is it, you know, we're still rocking titanium on the Pro models? What's the rundown there?
I will tell you, like, the button is cool, fine, but what is that doing for the user, right? It just seems like they came up with something that will get people to take more pictures in order to buy more storage, physical storage, cloud storage. It doesn't feel like, you know, a real innovative addition, right? It feels like an addition for the sake of an addition. There's nothing more convenient, in my view, of using the capture button versus using the screen, right? I mean, who knew touchscreens are the thing of the past now, right? To use the screen to zoom in and out and to take pictures. So, you know, obviously I'm going to get the phone and, you know, looking forward to trying it out. And obviously they're going to sell a lot of them. But the reality is that we're not talking about a game changer here.
Right. Yeah. No, fair enough. So speaking then of maybe game changers, you mentioned that the Apple Watch might see quite a few improvements this time around. Arguably, for the first time in a while, it would result in people making an upgrade if it's going to at least look a lot different from what we've had thus far. So tell us, what are the changes that we should probably expect when it comes to the Apple Watch?
The non-Ultra models are getting updated designs with a thinner bezel and a slightly larger display and a thinner case. There's also a faster processor in there, and there's one other thing I haven't written about yet. So I'm gonna hold my tongue on that one, but it's a health related feature, and so we'll see that on Monday as well. And then the AirPods as well are going to get some pretty big enhancements on the low end. They're going to replace the second gen and the third gen AirPods with two fourth generation models. One of them is going to be a bit more premium and have noise cancellation. The other is a replacement for the $130 second gen ones that haven't been updated since 2019.
So when it comes to the AirPods, how are we differentiating between the Pro model and the non-Pro model if we've got noise cancellation in the non-Pro now, the active noise cancellation?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So if you look at it in terms of three models of the non-headphones, you have the base model, which doesn't have noise cancellation and has more of a basic case without the speaker and all that. Then you have the mid-tier model, which is going to look pretty much the same as the entry-level model and look similar to the AirPods Pro. That's going to get the noise cancellation and sort of that better case. And then at the high end, that Pro model, I believe you're going to get, some of those software related features that you're not getting on the mid-tier model, right? So maybe you're getting better transparency mode, better active conversation mode. Some of those software modes they've been adding. There's a few other software things coming that they're going to be announcing on Monday as well, that will be supported probably on the AirPods Pro only and not that mid-tier model. So a lot of software differentiation there. I believe the Pro model has the water resistance or sweat resistance. I would assume that's not coming to the mid-tier model. The other differentiator there would probably be the better audio quality on the Pro model, even better noise cancellation on the Pro model, maybe better ear tips and fit. So I think they are going to delineate a little bit between them. And then obviously the AirPods Pro are going to be updated as well, not until next year, the end of next year, I believe, and that's going to create more of a gap as well. So if you think about how long they're letting these AirPods generations run for, right? It's been 5 years since they upgraded the entry level model, right? So you got to soup them up, and then they'll create that gap over the next several years.
Understood. Now you had kind of an interesting take about the capture button on the iPhone, that it was sort of adding for the sake of adding a new feature. When it comes to the Apple Watch, there had been rumors of a change in the band design that I was reading about. And then I also had a few questions come through about what Apple is going to do in terms of the pulse oximeter, and whether you can still count on that hardware being there even if it can't be activated in software, or if a future Apple Watch would, or if this Apple Watch would completely lose a hardware feature that is still in the midst of that lawsuit. I see a smile. Are you able to talk about any of that?
Well, I think it's ridiculous that Apple hasn't settled with Massimo, right? Because I think the blood oxygen feature is really essential. And I think it's interesting that people are probably going to have models with blood oxygen. Obviously, they added blood oxygen with the Series 6 in 2020. And you're going to have to ask yourself, do I want all the new features of this new Apple Watch Series 10? But then if I do that, I'm going to lose blood oxygen, because as far as I know, there's not going to be blood oxygen on these new models. Now, you were very specific in your question. Will the hardware support it? My anticipation is the hardware will support it, and it would have to be re-added via software update later.
Interesting. That's good to hear, that at least from your interpretation that the feature would still be something that could be activated later versus them redesigning it.
But all these hoops are so ridiculous, right? They should just bite the bullet. They have enough money, but at the same time, they don't want to set the precedent with who they believe is a patent troll. I think there's an argument to be made that, they fairly own the patent. Clearly, Apple thinks otherwise, and they're going to take this all the way to the courtroom.
Yeah, but it's kind of like what you're saying there. What is the holdout? Because it's only impacting Apple's customers, and it's not like this is some, I don't know, it's not like we're in France where you have people storming these buildings all the time and protesting. It's very different here in the US, and it's not like we're all those of us who are customers are chasing after Massimo going, make this change. Like what is it actually doing except making it so that the customers don't have access to a feature that they once had access to? What is the hold up there?
I think it puts a hole in Apple's argument that their number one priority is the customer, right? Mm-hmm. No, their number one priority is their pocketbook. And if it was the customer, they would have paid whatever they needed to get this resolved.
Yeah, I agree.
Argue with me on that one.
So, we've got always, you say iPhone, you've got AirPods, you've got Apple Watch. You have, of course, written a lot about what can be expected. Anything that you expect to be talked about at the event when it comes to kind of the non-hardware stuff? So a lot of times Apple takes this time to bandy about its Apple TV offerings or, what's going on there. Is there anything else we should expect other than, just a strict focus on the hardware?
Well, I'm sure they'll get in pretty nicely into the Apple TV stuff. They're going to talk a lot about Apple Intelligence. I don't anticipate any Apple Intelligence features that haven't already been announced being shown or anything like specific to the iPhone 16 Pro. Yeah, I think people have been holding out hope there's more AI features to come. I don't anticipate that.
Understood. Well, of course, folks can head over to Bloomberg.com to keep up with what you're doing. You also have a wonderful Discord community where people can stay up to date. You mentioned that there's something that you were holding your tongue on. Is that something that if people are following along, they'll be able to catch? Or are you waiting until after the event airs? And then I'll also add to this question that I'm asking you, if you'd like to tell people where they can keep up with what you're doing, that'd be great.
Yeah, you can subscribe to my weekly column on Sundays at Bloomberg.com/poweron. And I'm at Mark Gurman on X, Threads, pretty much anywhere, Mastodon, however you pronounce it. So find me on the social, and I'm around.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.